So we want to talk about House of Dragon, then we'll wrap it up.
Yes.
I think we're close to 2 hours nearly. But yeah.
I would like
Both
to
sides
talk.
are genocidal, crazy war criminals. So I think we should all enjoy seeing how they die.
That was Mr. Otto Hightower.
Yes.
Who left in like episode 3 or something, and then finally in the
season,
last
yeah.
episode we saw
Yeah.
him for like one shot in a prison cell.
Totally unexplained as well.
I think, so I made a joke on the show last week. I played this soundbite when you brought up House of Dragon. The last episode was yet to air, episode
Yes,
8 of
correct.
series 2, the series final.
True.
I have been enjoying
I
the
know where this is
series,
going.
but it felt like a bit of a nothing series, and I was kind of, I guess, I don't know. I was really going into this final expecting something more, I think. And maybe that was a bit gullible of me, but I was expecting there to be a really big ending and good setup. But like the series ends how it began, which was war is going to happen.
War is coming.
And there was one good, like, big set piece, but I feel like apart from that, you know, I know back in the day, like, you know how, like, in the Game of Thrones series, like, episode 9 was always the big
Yeah, they would do a big
episode.
9,
That was, like,
yeah.
Battle of the Bastards and, like, Blackwater and stuff. And then the episode
then-
10 was always, like, a bit of a recap and almost like a...
It would almost set things up for
Yeah.
what's to come, yeah.
Exactly right. This series, like... I don't want to sound like I just come into these shows for like non-stop like cool action set pieces. Although they are cool to see, that's not why I come into it. I do want good character moments, but it was just too much for me. I think it
I know what you mean.
HBO ain't what it used to be. There, I said it.
Whoa.
It's not as good as it used to be, man. They're making like the True Detective bullshit. There was that Weekend show.
The Idol, yeah.
The Idol, yeah. This Game of Thrones shit ain't great.
In my whole life.
Yeah, it is malarkey, and look, I
Ain't what it used to be.
I don't disagree. I think my take on the House of Dragon this season is that there were like you said, there was some good action set pieces, some good parts, and I do enjoy those. But I agree, I want good characters in the show. It did feel like almost, yeah, it felt like they didn't want to give us a big moment in the finale. It was almost like, it was literally what they did last season at the end of the first season of House Dragon, where it was like they wanted to end the show with like, war is coming. It's not here yet, but it's coming. And they just kind of repeated that this year with a lot of setup. And I can understand, like, I said to Kath, I was like, okay, so is it just going to be like the first few episodes are great, but then by the end of next season, it's going to be back to where we are again, and they'll be like, war is coming. Just wait. You know, it's like, are we going to be in this trap?
Well, there's only 4 series, so
That gives me hope.
which I'm
that-
glad to hear.
It makes me hopeful that they will realize that, like, okay, you know, we've got a finite amount of episodes left. Let's do it right for the last leg of the show.
I just don't understand why, if they only have 4 series, why they're taking it so slow and just they.
I don't know, man.
I don't know if it was the writer's strike why there was 8 episodes and.
Also, it's like, is the dragon stuff like too high budget? Like, are they trying to save money by not
It would be very
always
expensive.
showing the dragons? I don't know. I find that kind of funny.
It would be super expensive, but
I get that.
yeah, and there's a new spin-off starting next year.
Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, isn't that what it's called? Something like that.
Yeah, cool. Like,
Fantastic.
You're really not giving me much hope here.
No, not really.
I enjoy that whole world. That's why I tune in every week when it was
Yeah.
there, and I enjoy that whole world. And it's far from the worst show ever. I just think it's doing it I think it's just doing it in the wrong way of like. There's nothing wrong with like setting up this big world and why everyone's fighting and how. I think the coolest thing is to see how like certain houses will work together and like they're trying to.
Yeah, the politics of it. Yeah.
They're trying to get like smaller groups who have like, you know, bent the knee to
Yeah, the
King
different
Viserys,
alliances.
so now they should technically work for Rhaenyra and stuff. Like it all like serve Rhaenyra, like the stuff like that I find really interesting. But it's like it was just like that old series, and I was a Daemon's arc defender. I really liked Daemon's
Yeah.
arc, but like the way it ended, it was just like a trailer of Game of Thrones basically. And it was like it took all series for him to just do this.
Yeah,
Could you not done it in the first like couple episodes?
I felt this season there were a couple of storylines that didn't quite feel like the Daemon arc, especially. Maybe it will. Maybe it'll pay off more next season. I don't know, but it did feel a little bit like, and I said this to you, like almost like they wanted to take Daemon's character out of the action because maybe he's too confrontational and
He's
like,
too OP, man.
yeah, it's like they didn't want him to be involved in the main character drama, so they were like, let's just remove him for a couple of episodes, and that's fine.
I enjoyed series 1 more.
For me, it's like swapped. It's like I enjoy the first half of season 2 more than the first half of season 1, but I would say I enjoyed the second half of season 1 more than the second half of season 2.
At least series 1 had like
Which
a
I
cool,
know is a bit
like...
random, but that's how I feel.
No, I get you mean. I just liked all the time jump stuff in series 1. I think it kept you on your toes a bit. And
I feel like I did like, especially towards the end of season 1, the way that Viserys holding on to power and all of the questions of who's going to get the throne next. I think that was really well done.
everyone's really, really, really good in it as well. Like everyone's really great as their character, and I just wish it gave them more to do. Particularly when there's only 4 series, it's like, is this really what you choose to do with the whole series? Just do this slow ass like art that doesn't really go to it. You only have 4 series. Like it almost kind of like it almost seems like they don't have enough to do in 4 series, so they have to kind of stretch it out a little bit. It's like, if that's the case, then do 3 series or. They could have even done like a 2 series like tight show. Like they could have even done that.
Yeah,
like,
it is
Andor's 2 series.
some
And everyone loves
characters.
Andor, so
Some characters I feel like are stronger than others. It's
it doesn't have that Game of Thrones like world and characters. I feel like it doesn't.
It's
even,
not quite as deep. You know,
It doesn't even really seem to attempt to do it either.
You know, I've spoken to Kath about this in the intro. You know, it's just like the same intro every episode.
Yeah.
In Game of Thrones, it was really subtle, but one really awesome thing was that the intro would tease the locations you might travel to in that episode. And that was such a cool way of like getting you familiar with the world map, with the different like political factions in the show. And this House of the Dragon just doesn't go to that extra step.
It did one cool thing they did do was like the spoiler alert, I suppose. At the end of the first episode, one of the kings, like it gets the boy gets his head cut off.
Oh yeah,
One of the kids, and then in the opening intro, it's like a red line and it goes across the neck of the child. Yeah, so
it's cool. It's cool. I agree that I feel like the scope is not quite as ambitious as with Game of Thrones.
And they're teasing the White Walkers. It's like, are we really doing this again?
What was that about?
You did this before. It went terrible.
You guys like the snow zombies, right? You know?
And like we were texting about this. You were like, oh, what if they're in it, like the White Walkers and stuff? It's like, well, then where was this in? Like, why didn't they mention it then? I feel like
we haven't seen the White Walkers since 200 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and you remember how, I don't know, whatever. This is just like, I'm nitpicking now, but it's like, you know how the series 2 opened of House Dragon, it opened at the wall and stuff, and
oh yeah, with the Stacks.
it was cool, but like the Starks, they just like
they cameo.
They just cameo, yeah. Like
totally.
they don't even do anything.
I do find that really odd.
I guess they kind of like, oh, we focus on the Starks so much in Game of Thrones, so they're probably going to try and hold back a little bit. But they are literally just a cameo. Like they're not really.
I hear people say like,
oh,
the show is House of the Dragon. It's about the Targaryen family. Okay, but you know, you can still do an interesting world. You can still do interesting world building. You know.
Yeah, I think it was fine. Honestly, I really don't think it was like anything amazing. I've seen such better series of TV.
Yeah, like I think it was fun, and I think I'll still be watching. Like it's good, high budget entertainment type of thing. However, I do feel like they, you know, I think I don't think they're at this point, but I think the big downfall of the original Game of Thrones was that the writing just went to shit. That the writing early on was good, even though, you know what's funny though as well? It's such a whiplash looking back at the early seasons of Game of Thrones, because like the sex stuff they had in those early seasons were like so just unnecessarily overloaded with sex stuff. Like it was very, very a lot of
Like
sex
the
in
whole
that
houses
show.
and stuff.
Yeah, and like I get that they were kind of doing it to be controversial, I guess.
Well,
but
back in the day when it was first coming out, that shit was crazy watching it. Just like,
no, totally, absolutely.
what?
On TV?
Boobies?
Yeah, what?
Yeah, seeing like boobies on TV was kind of nuts.
And I totally get it, but it's just funny that now I feel like that part of the show has aged worse. But in the early seasons, like the writing was legitimately good, the character drama, all that.
Yeah.
And really, what tanked that show was that the writing went to shit. And I think with this show, I wouldn't say the writing this season was bad, but I think maybe it got a little bit stuck, or it got a little bit kind of stuck in a rut. I just hope that next season and the last season are actually well written and like interesting.
What even is this new
character-driven
show
drama.
about? This, what's it?
A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms.
Right. What is this about?
I
So it's
think-
not based on a book.
I don't think so. I think it's literally just a story set in the Game of Thrones world with characters that don't have a book and don't have a thing.
It's funny because the ideas that they had, the two spin-offs they were going to do was, one was The Long Night, which you only hear about in Game of Thrones, and it sounds fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It sounds so cool.
Yeah.
For some reason, they decided not
They're
to
like,
do
let's
it.
not show that.
No.
Yeah.
I think, they literally shot like a pilot. They wasted
That's
like
so crazy,
millions.
isn't it? Yeah.
Millions. They built all the sets. It was millions down the drain.
Weird, hey?
And then the other one they were going to do was the Jon Snow show, which was going to be set beyond the wall, I believe, with all the wildlands and stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't do that.
Sounds like a cool idea, but I guess they
So what do we get? We get this.
couldn't
It's
figure it
like-
out.
The Targaryen storyline, it's like, I feel like I already know all this shit. Like, I feel like it's not really like a new thing. Like,
Sometimes as well, like, you know,
Targaryens were big in Game of Thrones. Like, they were like, them and the Starks were.
but like, you know, some universes don't have to exist forever. Like, they don't have to continue in perpetuity. Like, things can end, right?
I think what I heard, this could all be malarkey.
I've heard so much malarkey in my whole life.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. I think it's just like it's like the knight is traveling through like Westeros and stuff, which I think is super cool. Like
Okay.
that'd be cool to see all the different areas and stuff.
Consider me interested, you know. And
Look, I'll
if they can
watch.
show the
I'm
different
gonna
houses,
watch.
the different
Yeah.
places, that's
So this is meant to be. This one's meant to be 100 years after. I think it's like 100 years after House of Dragon, but 100 years before Game of Thrones.
right. Okay.
I hate this bullshit, by the way. It's like 100 years before. So it's like you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot because they can't do anything massive because we all know how it ends.
That's me figuring out the 100 years.
I don't really care. I will watch, but I don't really care.
I'll tune in. Yeah, I'll tune. We'll both tune in, but we'll reserve the right to be haters.
It'll be there. We'll watch it in 2 years, man. I'm going to be
Yeah.
27 by the time it comes out. No, probably 28, 27.
I'm gonna be fucking like Viserys.
Yeah.
By the time the damn
Exactly right.
show finishes.
These shows take like 2 years to make.
Yeah, that's
And it's just fun. It's like you put all this effort in, and like this series really was just like nothing really happened.
It was. There was like maybe one or two standout like episodes or moments, but no, I agree. There was
They were
not.
good episodes. It definitely, yeah, you're right. It definitely, I think up to episode 4, it was good. I think I was enjoying it, and then from there on out, it's like,
It became a meme.
yeah, they brought Alan Taylor back to direct episode 4.
It never got better
Mr. Many
than that
Saints
episode.
of Newark,
Yeah.
Mr. Sopranos. He did a ton of Game of Thrones episodes.
Tommy
he's a-
Tough Knuckles.
Alan Taylor, yeah.
Alan Tough Knuckles.
Alan Tough Knuckles, yeah. Anyway, give it a go if you haven't already. We obviously spoke about it with such great praise.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Well, let us know what you think. Let us know if you are going to watch next season of House of the Dragon. If you're done, if you're out of the Game of Thrones business, or if you're just having fun. You know.
It became a meme.